Alright, so this video I'm going to be using Rose and Dawn, and I'm just going to color code this thing. Of course, we are focusing on cuticle work, so Dawn will be the color that I'm using for the cuticle, or as the cuticle bead. So again, I just wanted to color code it so it can be a little bit easier for you guys to see what I'm working with. So first things first is when you are doing cuticle work, when you're laying acrylic powder in general, you always want to have that finger pointed downward. Having it just flat facing up, what's going to happen is the acrylic is just going to run all into these areas and it's just going to flood the cuticle, and that's something you definitely don't want. So leave the finger pointing downward, let gravity pull it on down. So taking my cuticle bead, when you are laying your cuticle bead, you don't want to place the cuticle bead right at the cuticle. You don't want to do that. You want to place it just below. And I felt like this was a good spot to work with. You want to place it just below, and then you want to push that acrylic right into place. So using the tip of your brush, and this is why it's also important to know the parts of your brush, using the very tip, the very point of your brush, you just want to begin pushing that acrylic right into place. And as you can see, what I love about clay powder is that it moves when you want it to. So as you can see, that acrylic is not even running or doing any of that. It's only moving when I touch it. So this is definitely a powder that is for beginners. But anyways, let's go ahead and push that acrylic into place. And by push, I mean move your brush forward with a very light hand. Push it into place until that acrylic is now in a comfortable spot at the cuticle. And you don't want that acrylic right at the cuticle because you don't want it touching the skin. If the acrylic is touching the skin, it can cause lifting due to the oils that your skin naturally produces. So you want that acrylic to stop just below. You probably want just a small little crack of nail bed showing. Teeny crack of nail bed showing. You definitely want it in a comfortable spot. You don't want it looking like you or your client already needs a fill. So just push it to where it's almost touching the cuticle, but not exactly touching it. And my bead was a bit big, so I was able to, basically I did the one bead method, but I'm going to do this just a second time so that you guys can really see what I'm doing here. I'm going to do it with a smaller bead. So again, I'm taking a smaller bead this time because I did my bead was much larger the first time, but just so you guys can see this for a second time, you want to take a comfortable size bead. If you're a beginner, I definitely recommend using a smaller bead. If you're a little bit more advanced, you could probably use a big bead and just do everything in one sitting. But if you are a beginner, I do recommend using a smaller bead. So I took a smaller bead this time, and again, you don't want to place that acrylic right at the cuticle. You want it just below the cuticle like how it is here. And then using the tip of the brush, you're going to begin to push that acrylic forward, meaning push that acrylic on forward until it's nearly touching the cuticle. You don't want it touching the cuticle now, because of the oils that the skin produces. That's going to cause lifting. So almost touching that cuticle, but not quite. Once you're satisfied, everything looks good, then you're going to go ahead and begin to feather that acrylic on down so that it just levels or blends with the rest of the acrylic that's already laid, right? So this time I use a smaller bead so that you guys can see here. That is pretty much it. That is how you lay a cuticle bead.